Welcome to Decades of Horror, the classic era.
I've just completed the final test on a beggar. I have given him the serum XX-34 in the center of neck, but he died. But immediately I injected the antidote and he returned to life. After that, death is inevitable. So I succeeded, and now I can make any living being into a zombie. I can create soulless slaves loyal only to my wishes. So whatever the point of all that was, that's where I'm at so far.
This is episode 177, recorded May 12th, 2024.
Gruesome Magazine.
I kill him and I bring him back to life, and then kill him again.
And inevitably they're dead.
My dark lord.
Then they become the living dead, which is an oxymoron. Only
it's like giant shrimp.
Only not
jumbo
really.
Shrimp.
Yeah.
Military intelligence.
Bunch of George Carlin fans here. We cover the good, the bad, and maybe even the ugly horror films released since the beginning of time through 1969. In each episode, we'll discuss the monsters, spirits, psychos, and villains that have haunted movie-going audiences since the dawn of film history. With me this week are my incredible co-hosts. First up is Chad Hunt, co-host on Decades of Horror, the all of them, film producer, director with Wreak Havoc Productions, and a comic book artist and writer. Chad, how you doing?
I'm pitiful.
Pitiful?
Just pitiful. I am just pitiful.
Oh,
that's what my mother says.
Pitiful you.
That's what my mother said today.
So you up for the new Wolverine Deadpool movie?
Yes, of course.
Good. Chad used to do some Wolverine inking.
Yeah, I worked for Marvel for a little while.
Not with us is Daphne.
Everybody
who's off this episode, and we had invited, and Doc is not with us, and we had invited OG Whitney Cayazzo to fill in for Doc, but she's had a surprise.
She was attacked by one of them three-headed sharks.
Yes. Well,
Zombies came and took her away.
Yeah.
Zombie shark.
Yeah. So maybe some other time, Whitney. I was really looking forward to talking with you. But we did get Chris Peters to come in. Farside fan, horror and video nerd, and just nerd in general. I was going to say audiophile and videophile. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me back. Remember, you can only go
nerd.
You can only go up from here.
Well, Chris was with us for H-Man, and so now he's back for another international gem, which was chosen by Whitney. But I always enjoy the stuff she picks, and we will forge ahead with that. Before we get too much farther, I want to remind everybody that Decades of Horror and Gruesome Magazine are partnering with Play Now Media, and in particular, Decades of Horror, the classic era, is on Classic Horror Movie Channel, the Classic Sci-Fi Movie Channel, and the Wicked Horror TV Channel. And 70s and 80s are also on the Wicked Horror TV Channel, so you can check us out there. They got a lot of nice movies there. I was watching something the other night. What did I watch? A 1930 movie called Maniac, which is, I'm not going to tell anybody to go watch it, but yeah, you could watch it there. That's pretty crazy. Spoiler alert, this movie is from 1968. We're just going to talk like you've already seen it, or that you don't care if we spoil it. So if you haven't seen it, you should trot over to YouTube and find a copy of it. So normally we start by giving some basic details of the film we're covering, and follow that by our first impressions, some taglines, and then a general discussion of whatever trips our trigger. Right?
Oh,
so this is our topic for today. Dr. Satán. 1966. I think I said 68 a minute ago, but 66. Directed by Miguel Moreta. And hey, Chris, you want to read these names?
Sure. Let's see. Director is Miguel Moraita with Jose Maria Fernandez, Ursain. Sidney Bruckner, story writer, credited as S. Tomas B. B.E. The cast includes Joaquin Cordero, Alma de la Fuentes, Jose Galvez, Judy Ruiz Azcarraga, Gina Roman, and it was production company was Producciones Espada SDRL. Producciones Espada means Ford Productions. Filming in Mexico at Churubusco Studios, I checked, in Mexico City.
Yes.
Between
yes.
January 26th and February 14th, 1966, and released on December 29 of that year.
And the synopsis.
How's them for words as I zoom in?
Boy, you said a mouthful.
I left the Churubusco
Indeed.
studios out. There were some, a couple of location things, out in the streets and stuff. So in Mexico City. The synopsis. Interpol officer Mateos and his companion Nora are in charge of discovering and capturing the members of a shady organization that has been flooding Mexico City with counterfeit dollars. What they don't know is that these dollars help Dr. Rosamena, aka Dr. Satán, and his research to turn people into mindless zombies who obey only doctor's orders. And that picture there is a key ingredient to the zombification formula XX34.
Yep. XX34, and the other is what? XX safe?
I got it somewhere here. Was it the other one like CX6 or something like that?
Yeah.
BR549.
There's a 6 in there.
There we go. BR549.
Let's see.
All right. Let's do first impressions. And since this was Whitney's pick. So who should go first? I think Chris, you okay with going first?
Sure. Well, I first saw this Thursday, and I went through and I found the two versions that are in YouTube, and one of them was they're identical. They're taken from the same really crummy looking VHS quality source that's probably just been ripped to some digital file, and it's in rough shape. You can see there are tracking lines. So the VHS, or not VHS, the videotape origins are really obvious. But I saw it for the first time Thursday morning. I watched it in Spanish, and then I had the English subtitles on. I did watch it again. This time I was doing some other work, and I just listened in Spanish. And I did notice, not differences, but I noticed some slightly interesting things in some of the English subtitles, the translation used. Nothing major, but they'll come up. I have to tell you, I was immediately struck. The beginning of this movie reminds me of the beginning to the opening shot of Dementia 13 by Francis Coppola and Roger Corman, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
You immediately sense the presence of a director, in that you have this extremely creepily lit road in a town. There's a lot of fog. There's a lot of Steven Spielberg type lighting. There's a lot of backlighting. There's a lot of gloom and shadows. And the sound design is very odd. It's a bunch of voices that have all been manipulated using tape. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. And then we see these goons attack this guy, and we get into the credits and then into the film. But I was struck by that. Okay, you know what? This is a good way to start a film. I've seen far worse beginnings to films. It's a kind of a strange movie. It's horror adjacent. It's more like The H-Man was a police procedural. I think this is the same way. I mean, counterfeiters, and we have this psychiatrist who is making zombies out of his patients, and then we have these kind of James Bond trappings the influence of the Bond films is obvious. And then you have this occult theme thrown in and black magic. So it's a strange mix, but I kind of like it. I was entertained. And I thought the production values were decent. It's obviously low budget, but I thought that the director, who I did some reading up on him, he lived to be 105, Morata, and I thought, well, he seemed to know his stuff pretty well. So I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay. Thank you for that. Chad, how about you? What did you think of Dr. Satan? Or Satan, as Anglophiles would say.
Well, this is the first time I've seen it, and I was aware of an old movie serial, probably back in the 40s, maybe 40s, early 50s, called Dr. Satan. So I thought, well, this must be a condensation. You know, sometimes they would take the serials and condense them into a movie. This must be something like that. And it wasn't. The Dr. Satan I was thinking of was an old movie serial that had the main villain, Dr. Satan, and the masked hero, that the Copperhead, I think he was called, that would try to stop him. But this movie has all the trappings of a movie serial. So many things going on, like Chris brought out. You've got the devil in there. You've got zombies. You've got fast-talking police people, women with guns, which is always, I love watching movies with women with guns, of course. And this movie was way better than I thought it had a right to be. Usually these movies are kind of boring and slow-paced and everything. But this was pretty lively, and I especially loved Nora. She was just like, there's a couple of scenes where she had a gun. It was in the middle of the night, and she comes in and she goes, ah! And then she immediately starts going bang, 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 bang.
The guy, I know.
We don't see that often in movies. Usually the girl in distress usually screams and is overtaken by the monster, but no, she's like, you ain't getting in here tonight. Bang, 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 bang. And just starts firing away. I thought that was awesome. And I really did. And I was laughing, but this was fun. It was a fun movie. The devil, which I guess we'll get into a little bit more detail about everything later on, but the devil had me just laughing. Dr. Satan gives this big long speech about, you're the right hand of evil that guides us, and Satan's like, yeah, poof, and he's gone. Like, he's like, whatever, I'm not even going to stand up and say goodbye. I'm just going to sit here.
Do whatever you're going to do. Can I go back to bed?
Yeah, really. You interrupted me again. It was like
I shaved my legs for this. But it was a fun movie. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you too. The worst part about the movie is the visual quality of the streaming that we had access to. The only place we could find it is on YouTube. Luckily, it does come with subtitles, although, as usual, I strongly suspect the translations as being a bit lazy. As an example, okay, Dr. Satan says something at one point, he's dead. If all goes according to plan, this man will come back to life and nothing will go wrong. And that sounded weird to me. To me, it should have been, if nothing goes wrong, this man will come back to life and nothing will go wrong. Would have been, to me, would have fit better, but oh well. Maybe it was a better translation anyway.
It was more endearing this way.
I guess. So yeah, it's fun. Dr. Satan he's a nasty character. And indeed there is a sequel to this. if you are interested. We'll mention that later. Nora was great. And when the scene you're talking about, Chad, there's another scene where she's talking to Dr. Satán and she pulls a gun out and says, "Don't make me. I'm a cop and I know how to shoot." You know, like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I'm a cop and I still don't know how to shoot.
She started.
She didn't do too
Yeah.
She
good.
started blasting Rodriguez. I was multitasking at the time, and I was in hysterics. You know, she shrieks. He sees the crucifix, little cross on the necklace. "Ah!" She screams once, and then just the next shot, a smash cut to her blasting him.
That was the best thing. That made my.
I was in hysterics. Like, this is great. Go for it.
Yeah, so yeah, I enjoyed it too. I kind of dug the devil, but his conversations were kind of funny. He goes through this, Dr. Satan goes through this huge histrionics calling the king devil to come and give him permission to harvest these two souls, blah blah blah. And he shows up and goes, "What do you want?" "Well, you know, we had this deal, we had this covenant, and I just want to make sure you're living up to it. So I want to get these two souls." He goes, "Yeah, okay." Boom. And he's gone. There's like,
Disappears.
I don't know. It's not quite that matter of fact, but it felt that way in terms of how fast.
What can I say?
I'm a little busy right now, ruling hell.
What it'll be. Yeah. Yeah. And then and the doctor says something about, and the doctor says something about both times, you know, you may now return to your slumber. He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Okay. Poof.
I'm turning the phone on.
He mixes up the whole live and dead thing there, like in the quote that Chad delivered. You know, it says, "And he died. I injected him and he returned to life. And then death is inevitable." I don't even know what.
Huh?
I guess he's a zombie. He's alive. He's dead. And we'll talk a little bit. Oh, and the salt. But before we get into that, we do have a little sequence, a little segment that we frequently do called Taglines with Chad.
Really? There's a tagline for this?
Well, at the last minute,
You
I
wrote it.
came up with one. I did not. Google translated it. I'll show it
I
to
can
you when
take
we get there.
All right.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find the post.
Go for it, Chad. Well, you can read it when we get
Yeah,
to
let's
it.
see if I can find it.
Okay. The taglines for Dr. Satan are as follows, or tagline for Dr. Satan. A horror and suspense drama. It will keep you in constant shock.
And that's been Taglines with Chad. Okay.
Oh man, this is
You're turning into your skeleton horde back there once in a while, Chad.
my soul is weary.
Your soul has been psychedelicized, I'm sure. Well, let's
Am I
take
too
a
close?
quick look. Let's take a quick look at the posters. This is kind of what happens. There he is, filling a syringe with
XX34.
XX34, and as opposed to, but the way the shadow on his face makes it look kind of like those. What are the one creatures or the aliens on one of the Twilight Zone episodes?
Oh, yeah,
Face.
The Eye of the Beholder.
And yes, exactly. And these are roughly the five main characters. We have Nora in the top right, Mateo, the Interpol officer, right below her, and below that is Louisa, her of the hair, and on the left is Elsa, the doctor's assistant, but not really. Yeah. Not really.
What is her? Agent 32. Yeah.
Nora did have some nice hair on her, though. I like her hair.
Nora did. but
Yeah.
not.
Luis. Oh, yeah.
Here's what I think is I think this was probably a VHS, and there's the tagline at the top.
Oh, okay.
Zona de horror y suspenso lo mantendrá en el constante sobresalto.
Looks like a Dracula poster.
It does, yeah.
Dr.
But I like how
Dracula.
in the title graphics they've put the lab stuff in there, the glassware. That's important to give that feeling. And then I'll basically it's a lobby card version of the original poster, and then I just pulled a title slide out of the front of the film because I like the flames.
It's a cool logo.
I thought it was. It is. Now you mentioned Chris, the director, and I was trying to, I went and tried to look up some things that were, did he do any other genre stuff, etc. And it turns out, you mentioned he was 105. He had 73 directing credits, 58 writing credits, and in this particular write-up, they called him one of the greatest exponents of the golden age of Spanish American cinema. Said he was best known for movies like The Martyr of Calvary in 52, Vagabond in 50, The Marked Woman in 57, and Ella, Lucifer, and You in 53. But he also did some genre ones. There was one called, Capulina contra los monstruos, 1974 horror comedy, and Invasion of the Vampires, which I watched, and I don't remember where I found it. Maybe it's just on YouTube, from 1963, and The Bloody Vampire from 1962. This is a much better movie than Invasion of the Vampires, although it's kind of interesting. But yeah, a journeyman director that was very busy during that period of time, where we have all that stuff going on. Any ideas? Somebody's already mentioned, I think, that it was obvious there was some directing going on with the shadows and light and things like that. Anything else? That
very atmospheric look. It's reminiscent of the Universal horrors, I think, of the 1930s, with the use of light and shadow, the fog, the backlighting. A lot of that, I'm sure, was used to conceal the studio. But what a great way to conceal the studio. It looks great. And later on in the film, when we see the I'm going to call it the cellar in Arosamena's Dr. Satan's, that kind of groovy office that he has with the apartment on the other side of the wall behind the safe, and then they go behind the bookcase and downstairs, and he has the zombies in their coffins on the ground like vampires with those two tall candles burning. It's eerie, it's creepy.
It would have been a little too much for him to continue to fix up the rest of the apartment that looked like a cave to make it look halfway decent.
This thing had secret doors, didn't it?
Yeah,
It had
secret doors. But that's where the money got cut right there. You can just tell. Throw a couple of coffins on the ground and put them in there.
Yep. Put some fake cobwebs up. Turn the lights down.
Ew, there's spider webs everywhere.
Nothing says horror like.
So tell me about the first time when the police show up. Nora and Elsa show up, and they have the keys that Elsa has clandestinely copied or stolen.
What the hell was she doing?
I don't know. And then when they open that thing up, there's this safe that's got 3 different keyholes on it, and she just starts randomly. It looks like she's just randomly doing this until the door just opens.
Mm-hmm.
And later I was thinking, well, was there 3 different keys and she was trying and had to get all 3 of them in and was trying until she got the right 3, but I don't know. It just looked really strange.
Yeah.
It looked like
increasing the runtime of the movie. Yeah, I have to admit that was odd. Because I wondered too,
random
I'm like,
chance.
why isn't she going to use 2 keys? Because I'm pretty sure it was the same key,
Yeah, I
and
think
she
so
just
too.
kept turning it, and then that little mini door opened, and
Right.
I'm not exactly sure what's up there.
Yeah, it was interesting. And that took him into his secret room where he met with Louisa, I guess, or whoever had his records. And then you had to go past the bookcase,
Mhm.
to get to the sort of the dungeon lab kind of area. Anyway.
The unremodeled part of the apartment.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys get the whole thing too? That there was a great. I got to go back to my the quotes that I found, because this one. Oh, one of the quotes I had down here was, Xavier Rodriguez, I order that the soul leave your body and enter this locked box. He had this little.
Oh yeah, the little box.
That was weird too. He had this little box that looked like a ring box, and he'd open up and there'd be this, the weird sound effects in the background. Anyway, there was a lot of weird stuff in this movie, but it was kind of cool at the same time. So yeah, I thought the direction was okay, and boy, did he stay in character. Dr. Satán. Well, let's take a look at the cast. We have
one of the things that the movie did really well, I thought, was the lighting on the set reflected what was going on in the scene very much. It was always dark when the zombies were active and creeping around and stuff like that, and very atmospheric. And then when the police were talking, or Nora and her partner were talking, or something like that, it was more or less along the lines of a 50s sitcom lit, where everything was very clear. And I mean, of course, an office wouldn't be gothic looking at all, but it was, the juxtaposition of the two was done very well, I thought, and lit very well, and I thought it was shot very well too.
Yeah, I'd love to see a good, crisp
Yeah.
visual copy of this.
I think it would look pretty decent just from what I could see.
Yeah.
You know,
A noirish look, I guess I should say. I like a noir.
Yeah. Well, like Chris said, it's kind of this weird combination of like police procedural, science fiction, and occult. And the science fiction to me is the formula and the gadgets and stuff is kind of science fiction, but maybe it's just
James
occult.
Bond
I don't
stuff.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, yes.
Yeah, the influence of Bond is pretty obvious.
So Dr. Satán, also known as Dr. Plutarco Rosamina, is played by Joaquin Cordero, who we have seen in The Book of Stone, directed by Carlos Taboada, and it was a few episodes ago. But I thought he did a great job. He was, when he was being Dr. Satán, he was very ominous looking, and when he was being Dr. Rosamina, he was
Calm, cool, and collected.
fairly natural.
Playboy style.
Yeah, lounge god.
Yeah.
You know, would you like to come see my etching?
Yeah.
They're
all of the devil.
That thing he's holding in his hand in that bottom picture is, there was a guy that they needed to take out because Interpol knew he was part of the counterfeiting scheme, Mr. Rodriguez. And so they're in the same bar. Everybody's in the same bar. Mateo and Nora are in the same bar, keeping an eye on him. Rodriguez is up at the bar. Louisa and Rosamina are sitting over there. He takes this thing out.
It's a tic-tac shooter.
Yeah, I'll take care of him in a hurry. And I thought he was going to blow like a dart or something, but instead he like pumps it, and then it makes a noise like you would, a sound effect like a sword, whoosh.
And the guy just
It's-
goes,
Ow, my neck.
just
Yeah.
like it barely touched him.
and gradually dies a while later. Anyway, it was cool, but I was not expecting it.
Yeah,
And this
the
is
James
the-
Bond, the James Bond influence
Mhm.
of all those Bond films. I mean, the first, well, Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball had already been out, had already come out, and so everybody, the whole world was Bond crazy. And the little gadget, like you say, he sort of cocks it,
Yeah.
and he shows her something where I'm assuming it's a little dart or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And he says,
Right.
do you know what this is? It's la muerte, it's death. And then he puts it in the cigarette, and my thought was, wait a minute, don't do that, don't smoke that. You just said it's death. I didn't realize that it was like a blowgun
Mm-hmm.
until he cocked it.
I know.
Yeah. What are you doing? Oh, now I get it.
Q calls it a patooey pistol.
Pea shooter.
Who does?
Q. Or
Oh.
M. Yeah, Q.
Okay. And well, here's a couple more shots of Mr. Cordo looking more ominous, and there he is with the flashing Dr. Satán eyes.
That was a cool effect.
Yeah, that was before his
Yeah.
first visit. Although there were just a couple of scenes in the movie where I wondered, like, why is he doing this? And he stands before the gates, the cemetery gates, and I'm like, why isn't he just walking up to the gates and going through? Well, okay, he has to make it kind of dramatic. And then later I wondered, does it have something to do with the black magic part and he can't touch them? Like, no, because then he would be walking across hallowed ground. I didn't quite understand that. Well, just leave it. Let it go, Chris. Let it go.
There's
It's
no
weird.
rules here. There are no
It
rules.
looks very dramatic.
I
Yeah.
just got the
Well-
feeling. I got the feeling that he thought he was way more important in Satan's plan than Satan thought he was.
Yeah.
True, yeah. You're bothering me again.
would
It's
agree with
late.
What
I
is
need
it?
beauty sleep.
Oh, so here's a quote. He's got a couple of his zombie goons with him, and they got like shovels or picks over their shoulders. And he stands and does this big arm race thing and shouts out, King Devil, this is my prayer. Give me the power to open the gates of the dead. And the gates open and they go in, and it's like all that just to go into a foggy cemetery. I was like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
Yeah, I thought,
Yeah. Well, the
Why are
devil's
they
pretty
doing this?
persnickety about, he
I guess. It might have been a otherworldly cemetery.
the
or
devil
something.
is known for his micromanagement, so he needs to be informed of everything at any given time. Now I'm opening the gates of hell. Okay. Where's he now? He's at Wendy's.
All right. So here we have the police, the Interpol
Queen, huh?
people. Alma Delia Fuentes is Nora, and she's also in the bottom picture. And Jose Galvez is Mateo, the Interpol agent,
I love
and
her,
he
man.
also
You didn't need
played
Mateo in this.
he
didn't
played
need
El Diablo. Well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. He also played El Diablo in Macario, which is another movie we did that was a really well done movie. So,
one thing I respected about this film with regards to Nora and Tomas Mateo
Mhm.
is that they're a thing. But
Yeah.
he's not some gorgeous guy. He's just
No.
an average looking Joe. And they're just getting along great. And that crossed my mind. I'm like, I kind of respect the writers for this. He's not, Ryan Reynolds or fill in the blank.
well,
He's
I
actually
also
younger than Ryan Reynolds in this picture.
Aged badly.
Mhm.
She
They
was
all
the
age
one that
back
was in.
back then.
she was the one in charge of the relationship, because she's the one that the first time she says to him, maybe we could talk about that over dinner. And he's like, oh, yeah. And then later on, he says, well, maybe we should talk about that over dinner. And she goes, nah, I'm pretty tired. I just need to get home.
Yeah.
So, and then at some point, I forget which one of them says it. They make a comment about when we're married or something like that, you know, at least in the translation.
I just
Anyway.
loved her though. Her character was just excellent. Yeah. I loved her a lot.
Well, they did it. And when we say a police procedural, they do a whole bunch of discovery things, you know, like they, you know, they follow the car, they get the license plate, they find out who the car belongs to. They, you know, they follow somebody to where they live and you know, anyway.
Yeah, it was well written. It was a real well written movie for the kind of movie this is. I know it had zombies and a lot of fantastical things in it, but the things they were doing made sense. You know, the police were trying to follow procedure to find out what was going on. You had the femme fatale come in and sort of throw a monkey wrench into everything and causing problems. And it was very well written, and to have as many characters as it did, and keep the storyline of each person interesting was pretty cool.
Yeah, they did all have kind of a reason for being there. So the other two female parts, playing Elsa, was I'm going to use American or English, Judith Ruiz Azcárraga. She played Elsa, although even though she was his assistant, she was actually the daughter of a doctor that he had zombified some time ago, and in real life he disappeared, and so she was sort of doing her own investigation, keeping an eye on him and recording his conversations and copying his keys and stuff,
and doing a good job too.
Yeah. And the bottom picture is Gina Romand. She plays Louisa, who is like I don't know, the contact for Dr. Satán for the counterfeit stuff, I guess. And she gets orders, and I wish I didn't get a screenshot of this, but the two of them, they too, like when she walks into the room, he becomes immediately entranced or enchanted or something. You know, he might as well have his mouth hanging open and drooling.
God.
Yeah. And then they decide to meet someplace to eat. That's when they go to the bar where they do Rodriguez. But oh my God, her hair. That was
too. Yeah.
It's not in this picture, and I'm sorry I didn't get a screenshot of it. It's like this. Wow.
It's everywhere. There is so much Aquanet in that hair and she would move, and it was just like a helmet.
Yes.
And then the candles on the table, she kept getting closer to that candle, and I'm like, you all need to watch your eyes, because there's going to be a nuclear explosion in a minute.
And we'll never know if that actually happened, you know.
Well, you know, that's the way I remember when I was a kid and my mom had the beehive hairdo and everything.
Yeah.
And you couldn't beat that thing with a hammer. It was so hard. With the Aquanet and the hairspray and everything. It was.
Well, that wasn't even a beehive. It had these weird flip wings out that just.
Yeah.
What are they? A bouffant.
But it was crazy.
It was bad. Yeah, it was crazy. I thought that hair is going to go up, and that Aquanet's going to ignite, and there's going to be a fireball like 1,000 yards across, and incinerate the whole studio.
So the co-writer of this, Jose Maria Fernandez Unsane, is a co-writer, or has the story credit for Ship of Monsters, which is another movie we did way back when, which is really fun. That's one I haven't looked recently. I'll have to check if there's a Blu-ray of that. I want to have it. That movie was hilarious.
I think I know the one you're talking about. La nave de los monstruos.
Yeah.
I can picture this this little short guy in sort of a spacesuit.
Yeah.
And he's kind of a
Face. Is that the
cowboy
one?
too. There's these two women from Venus come down and start transforming people to start breeding monsters with Earth women or something, if I remember right, because I remember talking about interspecies sex. And the guy was the lead was kind of a comedian. Anyway,
it was fun.
There was one on there where, what was the deal there with that had like a cow? It looked like it was made out of sawhorses or something. Yeah, I don't remember. Stop talking about other movies, Jeff. All right, so key characters in this movie are, I don't know what to call them other than goons.
Carnival
They got the heavy eyeshadow and the white makeup.
That's what they reminded me of. Carnival of
what?
Souls.
Carnival of Souls guy down there.
Yeah.
The
but they're able to drive cars okay.
And argue with each other.
Yeah, well, the guy on the guy on the top, for some reason, needed surgery or something. He's the only one that's got that something going around his skull there. I don't know if they had to cut the top of the skull off and staple it on.
I wondered about that too. I think it was from the autopsy.
Oh,
because I wonder, like, why is nobody noticing the line around the head? And then Mateo mentions the autopsy later on, and I thought, oh, that's why. I'm like, nobody notices that this guy has a Frankenstein do. I was like, how do they all not notice this? And then later I figured out, I think that's what it was. I think that's why it was like that.
Well, they capture the one guy. I think it's the guy in the bottom. Mateo takes him into the police station, and they interrogate him, and all he says is, I don't know.
Oh yeah, no.
I don't know a thing.
Say nada. No say nada. I don't know anything. No te hablaré. I will not talk to you. No te hablaré.
And then at some point he says, I won't talk to anybody except Dr. Rosarina. Anyway, I think that's actually a baseball player name. I probably butchered that a little bit.
I love the conversation these two are having when they're driving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told you to check the bag before we left the drive-thru. Now we're short one order of fries. It happens every time. Shut up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they lumbered around. They weren't particularly effective. I mean, Mateo gets in a fight with that guy, and man, he takes him out by himself, doesn't he?
Yeah. When he handcuffs him, like when he runs away in the park.
Yeah. So not really that they're super strong or super fast or anything, just that they'll do whatever. And Louisa and Dr. Satán, Louisa's like all about, hey, this will be cool. We could control the world if we have an army of these. But it was
that was where I noticed the what I mentioned to you that's in the workflow about.
Oh yeah.
There was I was reading the subtitles, and in the second scene between Luisa and Plutarco, Dr. Satán, she's talking about how, she sort of fears him, but she respects him, and she wants him to be the most powerful person in the world. And in Spanish, what I read in the English translation was, it's something to the effect of, and if I can do anything, to help, let me know. But the verb she used, the verb to do in Spanish, is hacer. And she did not use the verb hacer, to do anything I can do. She used the verb ofrecer, which means to offer. And I sat there for a minute, and I backed it up, and I listened to it again, and I thought, somebody, I think, has sort of sanitized the translation, because I think what she was doing was offering herself to him, if there's anything I can offer. And they translated it as do, which doesn't come across quite the same way.
Well, if you look at her acting and her facial expressions, there's definitely a sort of lecherous glint in her eye. Yeah. When
Yeah,
she's talking to him.
misty.
Oh
Yeah.
man!
Yeah. I love you.
Well, Dr. Satan's kind of like a woman. I didn't expect you. Yeah, you thought it'd be some man. Well, you're old fashioned. So here's a couple shots of Dr. Satan doing his King Devil routine in front of the trees with his arms raised and his cape on. He dresses in all black the entire movie, and sometimes has a cape on, sometimes not. A suit sometimes. I guess he does have a shirt and tie when he goes into the police station, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think
When he talks to them.
When he's playing an actual doctor. The bottom picture is just a shot of the woods there that I thought was kind of cool. That's where we were talking about, that fog and backlit and shadows, and I thought
that's pretty nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
really well done. And
well
then
done.
finally, King Devil, after he's popped in.
Rey Diablo.
Kind of an interesting set of wings.
What do you want now?
Yeah, they remind me of like the wings of a fly. They're transparent, and he's clearly wearing. I'm really glad they kept him backlit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure it was just a guy wearing a body stocking, and a leotard's body stocking. And I have a feeling that if you saw that either in brighter light or too close, it would look pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's I can't really tell. One of the spots, it looks like there might be a couple of horns, but it's not prominent. You just don't see it. So
the wings are probably, it look like a prop that are set up behind him. They look like they're quite a bit behind him.
I don't even. They're not part of him. Yeah, he was sitting pretty still, like the torso and the back.
Mm-hmm.
At the same thing, there's no way, unless those things weigh about an ounce.
Yeah.
Each.
Well, then they would
be wiggling around and vibrating.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's why he has to sit down in both scenes to cover up the stand that they're on.
Of course, he's also tired from Plutarco calling him out of bed all the time.
This hotel room is $125 a night.
So in the end, he has full command over all of them. The police have Louisa, and they tell her, hey, we got Dr. Satan. He's screwed. He's going to jail. We got all this evidence. And so you might as well tell us everything you know. And she says, well, I will if you take me to see him and I can talk to him and see the evidence. And she goes to see him and he just tells her, yeah, don't, it's not over. Don't say anything, blah, blah, blah. She pops a little pill out of her ring and takes it, kills herself.
Mm-hmm.
Or
the whole Medici thing, the poisoned ring.
Maybe it was a pill form of XX34. I don't know. And then he disappears into a cloud of smoke, and all his clothes are just laying there. So wherever he ended up, he's nude. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Most awkward.
I didn't plan for this.
He suddenly appears at the local supermarket.
Well, they use another.
What I thought was really cool is that he freed all the zombies first.
Yeah.
Yeah. A pill for
He gave them
you.
the salt tablet.
And here's a pill for you and for you.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting touch because it gave him some humanity. I did not expect him to do that. And I want to free you. There's no reason you should be tortured.
Yeah.
Well, they use the salt mythos here about zombies. So what he says to the one guy is, this is a salt tablet. It destroys the body, but frees the soul of the zombies. Take it. And he takes it and he vanishes, right?
Yeah. Fades away.
So then at the end, when the jig is up, basically, he says to the three that are left, "You have been faithful servants. Now I'll give you eternal rest in the kingdom of death. Your decisions shall be binding. I have to stay around, but you have fulfilled your mission. No need for you to continue living in death." That's really kind of a cool line, even the translation of that. No need for you to continue living in death. I got to stick around for a while, but But yeah, you're right. So he gives them all salt tablets, and that's that. But yeah, he gives them this serum, and then says they die, and then he has to give them this other formula within 48 hours, is it?
Yeah.
And that will make them bring them back to life as the living dead, or as the zombies that will now follow his orders.
That must be what all the counterfeiting was for. They needed a lot of cash on hand to mass produce the XX-34.
The connection isn't obvious to me, but I guess, he gets a shipment. They stopped the shipment of the counterfeits for a while because they're worried because the cops know about Rodriguez. And but then once he takes out Rodriguez, they start the shipments again, and he gets like a package full of books that are hollowed out full of counterfeit money.
Yeah, they're inside.
Because nobody would think to open the book. They would just go, "Oh, these are all books." Probably. So
there was a sort of a heartbreaking scene too when the girl was begging her dad, who was zombified.
Yeah.
And he keels over, and you just like, that was kind of shocking. To me, it was anyway. I mean, I know he was dead and he was a zombie, but you were kind of holding out hope that she'd be able to reunite with him somehow. But
she's begging for him to recognize her and come back. And then she begs for him to do a simple thing, to go get this bracelet that's got a tracer on it, or a
little transmitter.
Sends out a signal that Mateo and the other guys can find out where they're at. And he finally does it. But he realizes
it'll play music.
Yeah.
And
but it shows he's got something
kind of,
he's violating Dr. Satan's orders, right?
Yeah. He brings it back.
But he tells her,
"Hey, this doesn't play music."
Throws it on the ground. Yeah, he tells her, no te conozco. I don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps saying, and she's getting, Papa, ayúdame, help me. And she gets more and more hysterical. And you think, okay, is this going to be the moment in the Bond film when James Bond turns the bad guy's girl onto his side to come let him go? So I was wondering, is that where they're going with this? Or, the Captain Kirk routine? And thought, no, that's not going to happen. Not going to be that happy.
But you're right, Chad. I mean, she spent for how long do we know? We don't know how long, but she has been for a long time working for Dr. Satan, trying to find out about her father. And then she finally finds him. And then that is a heartbreaking scene. That
had to have been a very long time for her to be in as deep as she was. But I thought that was a cool scene that needed to be.
Good pick. There was a sequel of this released in 1968.
Dr. Satan rides again.
Dr. Satan y la magia negra.
La magia negra, black magic.
Dr. Satan and the Black Magic, directed by, I never know whether to do the G's, hard G's, or Rogelio A. Gonzalez, with the same writers and starring Joaquin Cordero again as Dr. Satan. And when I see pictures of this, there's a weird ass looking robot in there that kind of reminds me of Ship of Monsters. So I'm kind of thinking maybe.
Now, see, one of the serials in that other Dr. Satan thing I was talking about, it's called Dr. Satan and His Evil Robot.
Well, maybe that's where I'm seeing the robots. Maybe that's where I was seeing the robots. Because when you search Dr. Satan for images, I kept getting.
You're right, Chad. Yeah. When you mentioned Copperhead earlier,
Yeah.
Boom! I immediately remembered the stills I'd seen,
Okay.
where he looks like he's wearing kind of a,
Like a
you
sock.
know, or it looks like the thing that in the movie The Invisible Ray that Boris Karloff wears.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like a diving helmet,
Yeah.
but it's like a screen shield, and then there's a little rectangular eye slot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but the rest of him, he's just in a suit.
He's just in a clothes. Yeah. Shirt and
Yep.
pants. Yeah.
Yep, I remember those
Pleated
still.
pants. Yeah.
So a little bit more about the cast. Joaquin Cordero won the Silver Ariel for Best Supporting Actor for 1951 for The Two Little Orphans. And winner of the Silver Goddess, which was given out by the Mexican Cinema Journalists for Best Actor for The Laughter of the City in 1964. And he's been in terms of genre credits, he's The Hell of Frankenstein, Santo versus the Evil Brain, Santo versus Infernal Men, Asesinos de la Lucha Libre, El Asesino Enmascarado, El Monstruo de los Volcanos, which is a Yeti flick, El Terrible Gigante de las Nieves. I'm driving you nuts, aren't I, Chris?
Well,
Museo del Horror.
if I could see them, I could. What was the last one you read?
I think it's the Evas. Museo del Horror.
Yeah. El Museo de Horror.
100 Cries of Terror.
100 Gritos de Horror.
El
Hijo. Son.
Hijo del Diablo.
Del Diablo, the son, the devil's son.
Yeah, which is a Lone Ranger type masked Avenger. That might be kind of cool.
Oh, I like the Green Hornet.
And then Las Luchadoras versus El Robot Asesino.
The luchadores, the wrestlers versus the
the women wrestlers. Yeah.
Luchadora. Okay.
And then the Book of Stone and Vacation of Terror 2. Alma de Fuentes, who played Nora, was in Blue Demon, Destructor of Spies, La Isla de los Dinosaurios.
Island of Dinosaurs.
Isla de los Dinosaurios.
Yeah. El Hijo del Diablo. Was that the one the other guy was in? Yeah, They were in that same movie with Joaquin Cordero. And La Risa de la
Ciudad.
Okay. She was nominated for a silver Ariel in 1953. I don't know. Can you see that title, Chris?
No.
Mi esposa y la otra.
Mi esposa and my wife and the other.
Okay. And in 52, she won the Silver Ariel for Best Actor and Actress. Historia de un corazón.
Historia de un corazón. The story of a heart something.
Is this in the workflow? Yeah, it is. But you have to click the drop down arrow by their names down in the workflow.
Today's Spanish lesson was brought to you by the
Well, the point I'm trying to make is, even though this is kind of a low budget movie, these people had acting credit in Mexico.
They had a lot of credits,
51 nominee for Silver Ariel for Best Child Actor Actress, The Young and the Damned in 1951. And Jose Galvez, who we said was the devil in Macarillo, was also in El Incredible Professor Zovek and Neutron versus the Maniac, which I think is a wrestler. I think it was a wrestler.
Sounds like it.
Named Neutron. Anyway, that's it. That's all my little doohickeys. This movie had almost no information. So
it was tough to find. There is no Wikipedia entry.
Yeah. And there's no trivia, no real information on a lot of the on the movie without just going out. So anybody knows anything else about this movie? I'd love to have you pipe in. But I think that's it for Dr. Satán. Any final comments?
Cool little movie, I thought.
Yeah. I agree.
Check it out on YouTube. I would recommend watching it on a laptop because if you blow it up to TV size, it's going to be it's just going to be a blur. You know.
Yeah, there's a term that's used in one of the laser group collecting groups that I belong to, and I don't belong to the group, but it's in a YouTube channel, and they refer to movies that look like that on disc or tape as potato transfers.
Potato?
Everybody just looks like a potato. There's no detail. Yeah, there's no detail. There's no nothing.
There's big
the
blurs.
blacks are bad.
Screen,
I did find when I went to eBay, I didn't buy the film, but I took a look to see if it was available. It's not available on Amazon, and they do sell a DVD on eBay, but I don't know if it's this transfer, because if it is, there's no point in buying it.
Right.
I don't think.
Right.
It'd be.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
good, I could check it out because, on eBay there wouldn't be reviews of it either, would there?
No, you'd have to probably talk to the seller.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and who knows if that person even knows.
All right. Well, that's it for Dr. Satán. And thanks to Whitney for this pick. And oh, Lord, I'm bummed that she's not here.
Yeah.
Totally understand life interfering. We tried, but we failed. But we got Chris instead, which is good.
So you can only go up from here.
So let's go to feedback. I'll take the first one, which is on episode 102, The Hitchhiker from
They're
Jose.
all from Chris anyway.
Right? Who is this blowhard Jose? Who is this person?
Commenting during the intro with the film's credits. Lupino was an underrated director. She did a Twilight Zone or two, and seeing Nicholas Musaraka as DOP tells me it's going to look fantastic. He shot some of the best Val Lewton horror films. I've not seen this one. Noir is a genre I'm a bit deficient in, but am building my knowledge the past few months. I agree with everything you said there. If I see Musaraka as a cinematographer, I dive in. And this is not a typical one of his films. Most of the noir stuff is all dark and shadows and stuff. And this isn't that much. But anyway, I think it's a great movie. And she does a great job. All right. Episode 131, The Skeleton of Mrs. Morales. That's a short one, so I'm going to take it, although I have no idea how to say this name.
Isaiah Lyrian.
7463. It's a very good movie. I loved Miche, the maid. She is so nice. Now, if you remember the movie, the wife was I'm looking for a word and I'm not getting it, but she was nasty. And Mr. Morales would frequently get served what he wanted by the maid if the wife wasn't looking, I guess. He'd get to drink and have big, thick steaks. Till his wife showed up and took it away because the meat smelled terrible. So, yeah, I loved her too. She was very nice. Chad, episode 132, Son of Dracula from Jose.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm writing this comment during the intro segment. I saw the title and my first thought was, oh, God, this is the one that starts the whole Alucard trope with oafish locals who can't see what the hell is right in front of them. And then I saw your names on screen and just busted out laughing.
We all had our names backwards.
Was it shut the hell up?
Oh, yeah. Dad's was shut the hell up backwards. Right.
Backwards.
My memories of this one are pretty hazy otherwise. I do remember the scene where Dracula appears as a mist being kind of cool, and the crazy scene where a guy shoots Dracula and the bullets pass harmlessly through him only to kill the woman behind him. What an amazing what the hell scene.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
Also, Cheney looks very fat and well fed as a vampire, or is it just me? I added
He looks
very
pretty
fat.
well fed.
He did. He's a little too thick to play Dracula.
He was but he was very distinguished looking at this time.
Yeah, he was.
Pencil mustache.
Yeah.
Episode 147, 1984, the BBC
Oh yeah.
movie version starring Peter Cushing and Donald Pleasance from Jose. Just ordered the BFI Blu-ray. This sounds fantastic. Have you seen the serial TV version of Quatermass in the Pit from 1958-59 with Andre Morel as Quatermass? I almost did it.
It's Quartermass.
It's electrifying, and I think this will be similar, as Neil was the writer of both. Okay, so I went looking for that. I know we exchanged some messenger stuff there, Chris, but I had the Quatermass in the Pit Scream Factory, and I believe Steve Haberman and Constantine Nasser do the commentary, and they spent about half of the commentary arguing about whether the film was better than the serial. And at the time, it really kind of pissed me off because they were talking about something I hadn't seen and wasn't in front of me. I'm like, talk about this movie. Come on. And then recommend the other one if that's what you want. But they did cause me to go out and search that out. And that might be when I decided I needed to buy I don't know. I call it a hacked Blu-ray player, but an all-region Blu-ray player through a third party. And it is. Okay. It's an awesome.
Region free.
It's awesome.
It's amazing. I saw I did not have a region free player at the time, or I would have bought that DVD. But I have to say, unless it's from a different source, the DVD I have is over here on the shelf someplace, and it looks okay. But it's taken from what are called here in the States they call them kinescopes, which is where they actually shot a television monitor with a 35 millimeter film or camera or a 16 millimeter.
Okay.
And in Britain, they called them something else.
You know what? I remember hearing or reading about that.
And it doesn't
right.
look very good. You know, it's kind of weird. The image is even slightly distorted because the camera's looking at a curved, essentially cathode ray tube. But what an amazingly written. I could not wait. For each episode, and it runs like 4 hours? 6 hours?
The series of Quatermass in the Pit.
Yeah. It's and the film. I think the film is a great film.
It's like 6
The one with what's his name? That Andrew Keir.
Yeah, Keir.
Andrew Keir and Barbara Shelley. Yeah,
it is.
And the teleseries. I think it's better than the film, and it runs. It's got a significant runtime. There's
a lot more information there. In terms of the story.
I just couldn't wait when I found it. I could not wait to get through all of it.
So and then I too got that BFI Blu-ray of 1984, and then another viewer, Andy L, suggested to me. I believe it was him, Day of the Triffids, which was early 80s, maybe 80 or 81. They did a series of Day of the Triffids, which is also available. And and that's way better than the movie. I mean, I like the movie, but it's you know. Anyway.
I do too. And
all right,
it's a bad movie. I've heard that miniseries. I think. Was it John Mills was in it?
Well, that's John Mills is in a later Quatermass one, which I also got. And
I thought he was
like
in
late
the
70s. I don't think he is. It's
I want to say it was 79, 80.
I can't look it up because I have to buy a new computer. My laptop I use for this has no space bar and no F's.
No F's given.
It's kind of hard to look up Day of the Triffids. So anyway, I don't believe John Mills is in that. I don't remember him, and I just watched that within the last month or so. To finish that one off, we're still talking about 1984. Great episode, and I bet you thought I was done with older episodes. I totally agree with Gregory's assessment of All That Money Can Buy, 1941, aka The Devil and Daniel Webster. It was just released on Blu-ray by Criterion, and the photography is just stunning. It's creepy and eerie, and Walter Houston is great. He almost goes over the top, but not quite. It's a balancing act, and he does it very well. Yeah, that's a really good movie as well. All right, now we're catching up here. Episode 175, The Snake Girl and the Silver-Haired Witch. Oh, it didn't transfer in here. But Bill Milligan says, I saw this picture in a book about horror films when I was a kid, and it haunted me. Never thought there would come a time when I could see it. And the picture, it was basically the witch and the little girl. The witch looming over her. Also, Scott Wells says about The Snake Girl and the Silver-Haired Witch, I saw this film about a year ago, and I was pleasantly surprised by how good it was. A modern fairy tale, but still shockingly dark at times. I'm thinking of the acid in the lab. I loved the makeup in it and the hints at a larger mythology. I did find it a little strange that they seem to be mixing religious elements in there with the Christian orphanage and the family's apparently Shinto faith, but it worked. Great to see this one. Scott would notice that. I don't think we caught on to that at all, if I remember right. Appreciate that. So, Chad.
Yes.
At midnight, I'll take your soul. Episode 176.
Okay. Could you leave some money this time, then? I'm the soul fairy. Okay, anyway. Okay, Jose says, it's been way too long since I've watched this one. For years, I only read about the films. I'm sure the Grue-Crew will find it shocking that, yes, it was Hardy's Encyclopedia of Horror. I came across the early DVD by chance and picked it up, and it sure is a striking, weird, twisted experience. I returned to the store a few weeks later to get the other films, but they were sold out and the DVDs went out of print. That Arrow box is looking pretty good right now.
It is. It's very good, but it is stupid expensive.
Stupid expensive. Yeah, I did find the DVD. The scene I remembered most, believe it or not, is I was waiting to see if you talked about it, and you did. Is when at the end when his victims come back, and you see the guy holding the candle, and he's surrounded by that shimmering, glittery.
Yeah,
we talked about it. It's
yep, and I was like, okay, that's the film. Yep,
they used
I need to spin
glitter.
Glitter on the negative is what you said.
And it was crazy. It worked, whatever it was. Normally they'd scratch it onto the film with a razor blade or
a pin
like that. Yeah.
Also, Mikey Z. You want to take this one as well, Chad? On At Midnight, I'll Take Your Soul.
Sure. Mikey Z says, from butt rashes to cow udder ointment, the Grue-Crew tackles the first and Coffin Joe films. Well, we like to be as complete as possible, a well-rounded podcast, So when you talk about Coffin Joe, you always have to talk about cow udder ointments and butt rashes. So
I actually saw a video on YouTube the other day where somebody was had their hands were all cracked up, and they took a can. It comes like a little square can of bag balm, and took a big scoop out and was rubbing it all over their hands. Anyway, all right, enough of that. Keep going.
I hate even hearing that.
I know.
I know. Bag balm brings up a different.
It just
in my mind.
It sounds so weird. Okay, after come bovine medical care talk, the Grue-Crew, Jeff Mohr, Daphne Ernsdorf, Chad Hunt, and guest host Greg Crosby tackle the first in the Coffin Joe series of films. I think I saw this on an old snowy reception UHF TV Spanish language channel back in the early 70s. I used to like to watch those channels for the occasional wrestling shows and Mexican horror they would broadcast. Like Chad's experience with the film, I did not have the benefit of subtitles to fully comprehend what was going on. I still didn't understand even with subtitles. Oh, Jeff, intervention! You bought the box set. See my feedback on the 80s episode for Spookies. No, we're not going to do that, Mikey. Now to the film. Director Jose Mojica Marin's helms Brazil's first horror in this 1964 offering. His Undertaker, Zé, is a sadistic bully who sees everyone else as too weak to exist in the world. His direction never drags, and his imagery recalls such films as Vampire, Le Diabolique, and early black and white Hammer films of the time. His attire in the role evokes a sense of theatricality, even in the way he adorns himself in a very theatrical manner. The film is very graphic for its time, and it's dealing with violence and sexual abuse, I'll say. I agree with Greg about the opening credits interruption by the witch, recalling Van Sloan's warning from the 1931 Frankenstein, "Go home, too late." Great podcast, Grue-Crew. I wish Whitney were there as well to get her perspective. Only one tagline? Are you sure? You got lucky this time, Chad. I didn't feel so lucky. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it, Mikey. You guys, I get to watch so many movies I wouldn't normally have watched because of all of you. Oh, I know what I was going to say is people want to check out Michael Zat's, Mikey Z's Facebook group, Chills and Thrills. He's fairly active, putting posts up there with information like this, detailed stuff about movies, events, etc. And Scott Wells as well has a Facebook group called Saturday Mad Theater that kind of focuses on, I think, classic horror most of the time. So check those out.
Both are very cool.
Yeah, they are. They are. And there's plenty of ways to stay in touch. So please send feedback to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com, or you can leave comments on the Gruesome Magazine's YouTube channel, Gruesome Magazine's H&R and DOH podcast Facebook group, or at our website at gruesomemagazine.com. Please do. We love feedback.
We also have a wet site, as Jeff said. We also, but we can't say the name.
Website?
It sounded like you said we have a wet site. And then
I probably did. Wet work.
We do have one, but we can't say the name over the air.
I was wondering. I thought, did I just not hear that right?
Yeah, we do wet work, but don't. You got to find the dark web for that. All right. So that's it for this episode. But every 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on a specific film released between 1920 and 1969. Next up, we've asked OG classic hero Grue-Crew Joseph Perry.
Can't wait
to join us. And he has chosen, and this is weird. I always knew of this movie as The Crimson Cult. But now when I look it up, every place except IMDb, they call it Curse of the Crimson Altar, which was the original title, apparently in UK, a lot of these movies, with Boris Karloff and Christopher Lee and Barbara Steele.
Oh, Barbara Steele.
So we are looking forward to that.
Yeah. Not seeing that one.
Yes, we are. Thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate it.
Certainly. I'm happy to help. Have a good time. I always have a good time. Well, always, both times. It's a good time.
Well, good.
It's fun. Good to finally meet you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. It's fun.
We're here for Chad was gone. So, okay. People should start coming back. The doc is still doing family stuff. So we got one more episode to do, I think. And then he will be back. So we'll look more like our regular selves or something. I don't know.
Whatever.
I don't know what to do. I always have a hard time signing off. So again, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, here's how you do
Dad.
it. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you both, and say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. Good night, Gracie.
Good night, John.
Gruesome Magazine.